and welcome to the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle. We got together because we love sharing our knowledge, we love experimenting, and we enjoy each other's company, I think, as well. And we sometimes do a bit of business together. So, welcome here. And before we begin our usual discussion, and maybe I should say what the discussion will be about, the title of today's discussion is What We Have Learned. And we have all experienced a few new things in the past month. And I thought this would be a great way for us to get started again, to share what we've learned. But let's begin by doing some introductions, as is our usual habit. So, David, you were here first. So, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Dave Flannery from Rock Falls, Illinois. I work with affordable websites for small businesses. If you need a website, give me a call. The weather here has changed. We are cloudy and going to get a high of 70 degrees. It's the first day in some 4 months that I've had my windows open at this time. So if you hear a car drive by, you know what that I'm one of the guys that's causing that problem, because it's just nice having fresh air come in the house.
Right. Right
So
on.
back to you.
Happy that you're here, David. Vivek, you were next.
Namaste. My name is Vivekanand. Literally, it means wisdom and happiness. I aim to bring together time tested wisdom and happiness together into your life by unifying, simplifying, and amplifying simple technology and tools. Wake Technology is my company, so let's wake up our potential. Yeah, past 2 weeks have been a kind of roller coaster ride for myself and David. We did learn quite a lot, and plan to share it today. At the moment, I am in Reading, UK. It is autumn, so the temperature outside is 14 degrees centigrade, which is for those Americans, 14 degrees is 60 degree Fahrenheit.
Right. Well,
Glad
welcome
to be here.
here. I know you've been working a lot of late, so when we get called to our jobs, it bites into our online fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay, and Fred, I hope that you can introduce yourself. I know you're technically on vacation yourself, but you were in a position where you could join in, and I'm very happy about that. So, can you introduce yourself, or have you are muted right now? I have a feeling, yes, that's what I thought. he's work he's working for from a marina that does have Wi-Fi, but it's it's probably kind of spotty. So
Kind of wavy, the waves go up and he loses it, come down.
yeah. So in the meantime, I will just say that
Yeah,
I'm in
it's
Victoria.
very spotty. I
Go ahead, Fred.
keep getting next. Can you? Can,
It shows that you're muted, but we can hear you. Weird.
I get my internet connection's unstable, so I'm not sure.
Yes.
Right. Well, I'm Fred Jones, the creator of Our Future.
Well, we've lost you, Fred. David, you are waving.
Yes, Javita says good morning to everybody, or good day to everybody. I'm sorry.
I'm where we help young people gain consulting in the marina on my friend's boat. We're still going to go out to some more restaurants. And
Right on. Thank you, Fred. And welcome here, Javita. I'm glad you're here. And who is this? Oh, Alanna. She just made it on time. So maybe while she's connecting, I will say I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, and I love helping retirees who want to either have an online business or learn how to manage themselves online. And you can find me at beingyourown.ceo.com, as you can see in my screen, or LowellAnn.com. So, Alanna, you made it just in time to introduce yourself.
Oh my God, it's been an absolute insane day today. Hi, everybody. Alanna here, coming to you from Ireland, and my company is ALB Digital Marketing Solutions, where I write copy and content for businesses looking to increase sales and conversions.
Right on. And how are things in Ireland?
Very busy, on both a professional and personal level. I'm just dealing with some house issues at the minute, and so I'm trying to fold the house issues into my professional day, and today was a hairy day. That's the best I can tell you. It was a hairy day. I feel like I just barely made it in here. Oh my God, 5 o'clock, gotta go. So it's 5 o'clock over here on my time zone.
Yeah. Well, it's 9 o'clock here, a.m.
PM.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'm sorry you've had a hairy day, but life does happen, doesn't it? Life and work do happen. So we were going to talk about what we have learned in the past. And I told the guys before you came on, I have 2 pages of things that I learned. I may not read them all, but I'm wondering, is there anybody who has the need or the desire to go first to talk about what they learned? Oh, there's David with his hand up.
Oh boy, what did I learn? I learned that this magic show is a lot harder than it looks. LowellAnn does a great job at being
Thank you.
to run this show and to be the moderator and at times do the presentation at the same time. Tried to do it and failed utterly last week. I did learn some things. One thing I learned in review is that until I become an expert like LowellAnn, I will not run a show and be the presenter, because it's when you run into a problem, you don't have time to fix it. Whereas if you're running the show, now you can concentrate on fixing the problem and let other people take over, or let the other person take over and do their part, and you can fix it. I'm a really good problem solver. When Jay started talking for me and stuff, I went back and looked, and I was able to solve my problem fairly good. And if I hadn't done some of the things I'd done earlier, my voice would have come through. But I think what I did earlier to try to fix things caused my microphone to not work as well. And OBS. So, but it was a wonderful experience. I did enjoy doing it. I wish that I would have been at least able to get the broadcasted correctly, but if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. As my mother told me, every time I told her I wish I had shoulder pads for football or a new baseball or a new bicycle or whatever I was wishing for at that time. So that was told to me many hundreds of times when I was a young man, a little boy, I should say, not a young man. So,
So, in relation to what you shared, David, just for the benefit of anybody who might be out there watching, I think it's really important to say my success has always been the fact that you and Vivek both were there, ready to step in and share screen or do whatever. And it is important. In the old days, Vivek, do you remember when we all started Hangouts? We used to say it was really important for every moderator to have a wingman, and that is still true. It is hard to do it. And I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if I didn't have your support. I think I would know how to do something differently, but I probably would not use OBS. I would just do an automatic recording, and there are ways to simplify.
yeah, but it to me it wasn't that complicated, except for that I was doing two things at once.
Yeah.
And I'm usually pretty good at doing two things at once. You get to the third one, then I start running into trouble. But this time I failed out.
Hey, David, didn't you ever hear me say multitasking rots the brain?
Yes, it does. But I enjoy multitasking. It keeps me going fresh and new, and keeps my brain active, which is very important at my age. Because if you start letting it just saying, "Oh, well, I can't do this" or "I can't do that," you end up sitting in a chair watching TV all day long, and then no more.
I didn't quite catch what you were saying. Multitasking, what?
Rots your brain.
Rots.
ROTS. Rots your brain.
Like an apple, rotten apple.
I'm not so sure about that, because here, at least in the UK, there is a common belief that women are good at multitasking, men are terrible at multitasking. That's a belief.
I've heard that one too. I prefer my expression. Multitasking rots your brain.
Actually, if I could jump in there is really no such thing as multitasking.
No.
Except if you're walking and chewing gum at the same time. That's multitasking. But I mean, for the most part, when you think about multitasking, there is a procedure, there is a structure. You're still doing one thing at a time. You think you're doing it all at once, but I don't think so.
It's like the computer. The
Yeah.
computer is not running everything at once. It's running something for a very short amount of time, and then switching to something else, and then switching to something else, and then coming back again and switching, and it just keeps going in a cycle. So in actuality, it's so fast that you think it's doing things at the same time, but in reality, if you it's not.
Well, and so from the usual terminology about multitasking, really what you're doing is leaping from one thing to the next thing without a pause to think it through or do whatever. So, And that's often hard to do. I find it hard to do because I often need time to ruminate on things and think it through and all of that. And so needing to do what is normally thought of as multitasking is a pain. So, but, but thanks for that clarification, Alanna.
But in saying all that, I do think women are better at it. Women
Yeah,
just
because
are. And
I see examples of that almost every day. I go to my job. There is a particular. I mean, I can I can visualize the face. There is a specific lady who comes to the shop, and she has two kids who are about 8 years, 9 years, two both boys, and they are like they once they come into the shop, they are like running around and oh God. And she handles them. She talks to them. She talks to me. She all happening at the same time, and while being really polite and all that, and even with the kids, she doesn't scream at the kids. That is what surprises me. I have seen others who come with the kids and start screaming at the kids as soon as they start enter the shop. But no, talks to them like a mother, lovingly, and yes, dear, don't do that, dear, all that, and then switches back to me and says something, and she wants this, something, that, or whatever. Yeah, I agree.
So, LowellAnn, can I ask you something? Do you think the reason why, like in your particular situation, in this environment, do you think it's because people are live on screen that you need to have a wingman?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking about Jay, and Jay doesn't have, I mean, he has live calls every week, but they're not video calls. So he gets messages through the chat. And I'm wondering if that must be an easier way to go, because I mean, he makes it look flawless. He makes it look quite easy to do. And maybe it's because
no, it is also
but he's just
comes of practice.
And Jay is just giving a presentation.
Yeah.
And he's following he's got a script, or at least something that he's following.
He's got a presentation. He's got the words that he put up for the presentation. And then he's done it for so long that he knows how to make up to take a one line and make it be 4 paragraphs worth of information.
Yeah.
Because he's done it for so long.
Yeah.
That, and number 2, he's had all the problems. I have never had a problem with OBS before in my life. Okay, my first problem, and I didn't solve it. But give me five sessions with it, and I won't be an expert, but I would be able to solve the problems fairly quickly. And I didn't do this, or this needs to be fixed. And at the end of 5 years, it would be old hat. That stuff would be. I would be able to, you probably wouldn't even notice that I hit a key or did something and keep right on going. That's like LowellAnn. She's done it for so long, and she's developed a system, and her system works, and it's hard to change your system. And that's why you haven't changed your system, is because what you've got works, and going to something that's maybe easier in the long run is going to cause a lot of disruptions until you learn it.
Well, but going back to Alanna, your question, it's absolutely correct. By managing everybody on screen and making sure that all of this, what Jay has, he's following what the questions they add in the text that and if you notice, he looks away at a different screen altogether in order to see what questions have arisen in the chat box. So
Yeah, so I mean, you have the interaction here live on screen, and then you also have the interaction through YouTube.
Correct.
So there's a lot of moving parts, I think, for your presentation and your calls each week, which makes it a little more difficult to manage. So you do need a wingman.
Yeah, you do.
You really do.
Yeah, you absolutely.
So Dave, I think you got to stop beating yourself up about last week.
Yeah.
Hey, I've stopped beating myself up. We just brought it up again, so I got to beat myself up one more time.
Well,
This will be the last time. I mean, I talked to Alanna the day after, and I was beating myself up pretty good.
You were, yeah.
Now
well,
I'm just more or less reminiscing about it and telling the truth. I mean, things didn't go well, and and that's what happened, and I can't change it. The only thing I can do is learn from it, which I have, and go forward.
Well, now you have to know that I already said to Vivek yesterday when we chatted, this is not about what went wrong and what I did wrong. This, I wanted us to focus on, what did we learn?
Yeah.
So please, we do not, this is not about what went wrong. It is what did we learn?
Okay, here's not a confession, because it is. I don't feel guilty or anything. I am sending what we are talking today to my YouTube channel as well. It's been on since 22 minutes now, just as if I had done on 21st. I call it a practice run. So what I'm going to say is, you need practice.
Yes.
As simple as that.
Yes.
Practice.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And part of that practice, as I've said to you all, I have everything laid out in a checklist. So I have several pages. I have a checklist for when I'm setting up the whole month. That's one page. Then I have another checklist for what to do on Friday when the post goes live on my website. So I have a checklist for that. And then I have another checklist for what to do, how to set everything up prior to going live on the day. And then I have another checklist of what needs to happen during the show.
Yeah. So to David's point about, you were saying, David, you're not going to go live or do these things until you perfect it. That is like saying, I will not jump into the water until I learn swimming perfectly.
Well, what I'm saying
by
is
reading books.
I don't want to run
watching TV or whatever. You can't. You have to jump into water.
Well, I'm going to jump in the water of broadcasting it and let someone else do the talking, or I'm going to broadcast it myself. I'm not going to do it and have show and depend on all sorts of different things. Much to do at once. Once I learn how to broadcast correctly and solve some of the problems that come with broadcasting, I will then start doing the multitasking and doing presentations or talking through the show and whatnot. It's difficult for me to make the mistakes and not be able to correct them right away. And I have my problem solving mind was short circuiting last Tuesday. It was going crazy. And I'm talking away and it's wanting me to go over to OBS and fix it.
Well, and just by way of a reaction to that, have I benefited many times from your brain, your problem solving brain. I mean, you have helped me through not necessarily stuff here, but through many other things. So
Right.
having a problem solving brain is a definite asset.
Oh yeah, and like I said, it was if you'd have seen what was going on in my mind that you'd have been amazed. There were things firing all over the place. And
The
I was
one
amazed that I
mistake.
was able to keep my attention as much as I was on the presentation. Fred noticed that I misspelled some words, and then I said the correct words. I I was amazed that I just wasn't blindly just reading what was there, and that I was able to, oh, that's the wrong word. And without too much hesitation, use the correct word. And then I'm also on the other side of my mind going, get back to OBS, fix that. You can fix that. Come on, get over there.
I think if there was, I think the lesson learned in all this would be you cannot be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. It's just, it's like trying to direct and act in your own movie. It's just an impossible thing to do.
Well, LowellAnn pulls it off every week. I mean, he has us to help her with.
Yeah, it's not you're in front of the camera and behind the camera. No, it's I will repeat what I said. Practice.
Yes, it's practice.
You keep doing the same thing. You many times you keep doing the same mistakes, and then you'll realize, oh, that why did I do that again? Keep doing the same mistakes again. If you say that I'm not going to do the same mistake ever again,
Yeah.
you probably will. And you need to handle how you need to recover from that. That is the most important aspect. I mean, doing mistakes is not bad. Recovering from it is the most important thing. So how quickly you can recover, or
Yeah.
like David was saying, if we have been doing many times, he would do the obvious correcting step without actually stepping away from what he was doing, or
Right.
he would have done it automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one.
I would have known what I'd done wrong and went over and clicked the two buttons, and then would have been on my way. And
Yeah.
no one would have even known what I did because I had OBS on another screen and I didn't, so that problem would have been solved right away. The
one mistake we both did was trying to share the screen
Yes.
to make a presentation ourselves.
Right.
That both of us, we did the same mistake. I should have created the presentation and asked David
Yes.
to share the screen
Yes.
while I talk about the
Yes.
presentation. And same way, David should have done the opposite.
Yeah.
Shared the
Yeah.
presentation with me. I actually share the screen while David talks about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because
Which is
Zoom has made.
which is the way we do, the way we've been doing it here all along.
Yeah.
Yes.
But see, we haven't done it that way. Him and I have always done the
The wingman.
screen. Yeah. While you're doing the presentation, while you're running the show, we always did the presentation, and we're both thinking we can do that. The presentation, running the presentation, something it's just clicking a button to get it to go forward, and and I even did where I was running a separate computer because the presentation.
Oh, that would just add way too much for me. I would just wouldn't. So, Alanna, I don't know if there was anything from your hairy day today that you may have learned. Anything that you feel like you would like to share that you've learned in the last while?
Wow. I don't know. I feel like I've been incredibly disorganized of late because, you know, I get up in the morning and I have this idea of what I want to get done during the day, and it hasn't really worked out that way. And so I get very annoyed with myself. Like today, I got nothing done, essentially, because I was running around getting all this other stuff done. So that's the nature of the beast when you're a freelancer, and other things, because you're a freelancer, it looks like you have tons of time on your hands when you really don't, because you have work to get done. And I have lots of work to get done, but today I just didn't have any time to I couldn't even get started on it. So it's a disappointment to me. So what did I learn? Get up earlier. Maybe that's the deal. Although in saying that, I was up at 6 because I was up at 6 this morning because I had somebody come into the house to give me an estimate on some work we're getting done. So, I mean, you know, but that's been my day, you know, so.
But getting up earlier doesn't solve the problem. I guarantee you, you can get up as early as
I was proud of myself too. I was like, wow, you got up at 6 today. You're ready to go. And now once this guy comes and goes, you get your stuff done. And no, didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Well, let me tell you, my alarm goes off at 5:30 every morning. Now, if sometimes I take an extra hour, especially on the weekend, I might take an extra hour, doing like quite often I'm just looking on my cell phone, in a relaxed way, and not really getting up and going. But this morning, because I knew that, especially because those 2 updates happened, I just felt like I really needed to get up and be ready and early, so I was giving her. But the other thing is that I have a to-do list that I cross off as I'm doing, and but there's a bunch of things on the bottom of this list that I haven't gotten to forever. So that's the kind of thing that happens. It does.
Well, you know,
as
in
a
saying that, yeah, and in saying that, like I remember years ago when my daughter first went to college, and she was freaking out about how to study, blah blah blah. And I was saying just make a list of all the stuff, but she actually took it one step farther, and she blocked out time. Now Fred has done this too.
I know.
He blocks out time on certain tasks, because I, like you, make a list of stuff to do for my day. I get half of it done, and the rest of the list is still left open. But what she has done is, and like Fred too, he puts out blocks of time and says 10:15 to 10:30 I'm doing this. And that, I think if I started doing that, it might be helpful, because then you at least have a better idea of where your time is going and how much time is spent.
Well, and I thought about doing that and tried to do it at one time, and it didn't work for me, because when you have a task to do, it's very hard to judge how long it's going to take to do it. And so that blocking time, I mean, generally I know that I have sort of in my mind how I'm going to spend the day, roughly, but that's about as far as I can go. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
the
you'd
thing
have to
too
be-
is somebody had told me, sorry, Dave, somebody had told me like back many jobs ago that whatever time you estimate for a task, double it.
Yes. Exactly.
And like, and when it comes to my daughter, it's easier to do that because she was studying. So the idea was to block out times to study certain topics for a certain amount of time. So it works better in that environment. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
The thing that you need to be able to do is, if you're halfway into or halfway done and your time comes up, you need to be able to walk away and start the new task. Now, for some people, that is a very easy task, and it's very easy for them to pick up the next day when that block of time comes up and continue with the task. For others, they go to the new task and they're still thinking about the old task, and they're having a hard time starting the new task, and they, they need to complete the task, and that's when you run into
That's right.
well, I allowed 2 hours for this task, but I'm finding it's more difficult. It's 4 hours. And if you stop, then it becomes 6 hours or 12
because
hours.
You lost your momentum.
Yeah.
And you lost
Yeah. And if some people can do it. My son is really good at that. He's really good at blocking time and saying, he's like Fred. He blocks out times. He does certain things. He gets it in. Unless it's an a number one top priority, the world's going to come to an end. He stops what he's doing and he goes on to the next task. And I'm not that way. I find it very difficult to stop. I find stopping points, but they're never where I want them to be.
Where or when?
Yeah.
I know.
As such, I'm not trying to brag, but on that day, on that Tuesday, I had a couple of works. I had to go to the job in the morning for a couple of hours. I had to wake up early. But what I had done before that was I had the presentation all ready. I had created the presentation, including what I'm going to say, etc., etc. All that I had done in the previous days, in the entire week. I whenever I could find time, I would do stuff for that, and so it's a continuously working towards something. Which you know that you need this on a certain day, so you plan ahead and not necessarily hours and put down so many minutes I'll work. No, I whatever time I had to put in. So
building in the time ahead of time it's important.
Yeah.
So what's the time? I know Javita was telling me she wanted to hear, and so did Fred, the things that happened for my trip. Or I'm not gonna walk you through my trip. I will do that sometime, but not while we're recording. Okay. But there were some things that I did learn that relate to being a solopreneur, I thought. So that's what I'm going to share with you this morning. So the first thing that I wrote down under what did I learn, you can't holiday and stay on top of business simultaneously.
Oh my God. I can't believe you said that.
You can't.
Because I am trying really hard not to take my laptop with me on this trip.
Don't.
And I'm finding it increasingly more difficult. And it sounds very glamorous to say, oh, I get to, I'll work on my vacation. It's not glamorous.
No,
it
it's
stinks.
not.
It's awful. It is not fun.
Yeah. Okay.
You won't be doing justice to either of the two things. You're neither doing justice to your vacation thing, nor to the work that you're doing. So it's
Right.
No, don't.
So originally, I sort of thought that I might be able to tune in to both of the sessions, Vex and David, but my job on the trip was to be the navigator. Robin was driving, and I was the navigator. And I was using I only took my cell phone with me. That's all I took. That's all she took. That's all she took as well. Okay. So when we were traveling, and we did quite a lot of driving, to get from to the various places that we wanted to go. So I had my GPS on using my cell phone in the car. Had the phone plugged into the plug-in so that I was able to maintain the battery power, because GPS really drains your phone very quickly. So, but I did not, and it was important because she was driving, I was giving and we had it turned on so that Phyllis spoke up and told us when to turn whatever. But if I would have had to disrupt that in order to do other things on my phone simultaneously, and I wasn't willing to try that because I was new at doing GPS. I learned a lot about GPS. And so that was the other thing that I really, really wanted to mention, that GPS on your phone. David was telling me earlier that there was a time when it didn't work really well. It just worked like a hot damn. It really worked well. Okay, so that was one thing that I wanted to mention. Something else that I wanted to mention was I gained a lot of new perspectives. What I learned was you can gain new perspectives if you are really listening. So to let you know the background of that, we went to a specific site where an historical site in the Maritimes, where the first time I was there was probably 30 years ago. I had heard everything from the English perspective. And this time when I went back, I got to hear the presentation from the French perspective. And it was really it was for me to compare what I heard years ago when I lived there and what I was hearing, because I was listening with a different pair of ears. And the other thing was I learned a whole lot about First Nations down there, because I had never learned about First Nations when I was there. So I realized that I went there with the intention of really listening. And it's amazing the new perspectives that you can gain when you do that. Let me see. Oh, another piece. And this will fit in with a number of things that we've been saying. It is so important for the individual to take responsibility for their own connections and not expecting or letting someone else take care of it for you. I found that in my family, for example. I'm the only female in the family. And they all expected the female in the family to look after staying in touch with relatives and keeping track of everybody's address and all of that. And I got down to my hometown where my brother lives, and I could not find him. The last address I had for him, he was not there. And I do know that his wife passed away a couple of years ago. I do know that she took care of all of that. And he doesn't, not only that, but, and here's the other piece that I wanted to say, is it's important for, regardless of our age, that we stay updated with the modern way of staying in touch. So I discovered I had, in order to connect with another person that I wanted to, I couldn't connect with her by phone because she had changed her phone numbers, and I couldn't do that. I did all kinds of phoning from one coast to the other, trying to find people, and I eventually wrote her a letter because I realized that I didn't have up-to-date information. So I wrote her a letter. It took the better part of a month for snail mail to go from one coast to the other. So now I'm wanting to stay in touch with a niece and nephew, etc., etc. And this niece has decided she doesn't want to be bothered with email or being online and all of that. And if she doesn't change her mind, she's not going to be able to stay in touch because our systems, our old systems, are falling apart. So there's another piece that I'm certainly going to be doing some pieces about aging and what to do in your retirement and how important it is to stay in touch and what are the easy ways to do that. So that was a real, I guess my thinking initially was, well, I'm doing this because I love being online. But I've come to realize the importance of doing all of this because that's the only way you can stay in touch with people that are important to you. So that was a major learning for me. Major. Okay. So that was this. It's impossible to stay in touch with at least email. I talked about, okay, the other important piece is how important it is to maintain your good health through good nutrition and through exercise. Because I found that a lot of the people that I was connecting with were older, and the conversation was nothing but an organ recital. It was talking. Older people get to the point where all they talk about is their health. How boring is that for both parties? So no organ recitals. It's another one. Now. The other thing that I really didn't know whether we could do this trip and with just a smartphone, an up-to-date, good smartphone, but that was possible. And we bought a little. I bought a little bit extra data from the company that I deal with here because I knew I was going to need extra. But everything worked just beautifully, not a problem. So that's the other thing, Alanna. You don't need to take your laptop if you've got a good smartphone. And I have to admit, there were a number of things that because I use a desktop here all the time, there were a number of things that I had to learn how to do using the smartphone. And that was good. You know, like how to take a screenshot using your smartphone.
I still haven't mastered that. I have an iPhone. My daughter showed me once and I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, two more things. I had the occasion to visit a place, an old house that a house that I lived in at one time in my hometown. And there was a gentleman was in the backyard there, and I had a conversation with him. And he was there to plan out some sort of local out outside upgrade and landscaping for this house. So he gives me a business card, and I thank him, and I tell him a whole lot about that house that he didn't know, which was really fun. But he gives me a business card. It's I can show it to you. That's one side and that's the other. So here is what I discovered from looking at this one business card. It is important to say on your business card what it is that you do. Never mind just a business name. It needs to say what you do, what your business does. It also needs to say what how a good way to reach you. Now on this business card, he gives me a P.O. box number. Then he puts an email address on there, his name at, and the name of the company.com. I go online, and the name of the company, the name of the URL for the name of the company is for sale. So, and there's no, there is a phone number, which I'm thinking I'm going to text that phone number and see what happens. Tell him my observations about his business card. Okay? So, don't have if you're in business, don't have a business card that doesn't give the address of your website. Okay? That was another learning. And the final one that, oh no, there's two more. Another one.
The website thing is very relevant. I mean, lots of people have been saying, I don't need a website. I can connect to you using Facebook. Facebook had a 6-hour meltdown worldwide.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yes.
You want to know something? I didn't know anything about it until this morning.
Yeah.
That's how much I use Facebook. Didn't even have a clue it was down.
Yeah. Well,
I was wondering why my phone wasn't ringing off the hook. And
Not just Facebook.
Instagram
not just...
and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
All of it was down.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm glad you raised that, Vivek. Okay, so now there's two more things. When you have a conflict with a company, like if you're trying to organize something or to buy something or whatever, do not satisfy yourself with just communicating with a bot. Speak to a real person and take notes. So I can tell you, and I know that you are interested in hearing a few stories. So we had to postpone our takeoff from Victoria because the care center that I work in, somebody tested positive, and so I had to go for a COVID test. And I felt as though I should not take off on this trip unless I were to determine that I was COVID free. So I sat on the phone for the better part of a day, changing our flight plans by one day. That experience was pretty good. I had to sit there and wait my turn. But when I did reach somebody, it was a good experience. She did what she could, and she even had to go and connect with one of her bosses in order to do something. So that worked out really well. Robin, on the other hand, had to go and cancel one night's reservation in a hotel. That was easy. But then we had rented a car, and we rented that car and paid in full up front a month ago, because we knew that travel right now, we were getting warnings. Don't renting a car is going to be difficult. So we rented it and paid for it up front for the whole trip. Okay. She went on to the company. She went online. She went to it was Hertz Rent a Car. She went even locally, and all of these things, nobody was able to connect with the Hertz office in Halifax, where we were supposed to pick up the car. She eventually went on the Hertz site, and they actually said, if you want to speak to a real person, you have to pay to speak to a real person. And she basically said, well, I've tried everything else. I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and do that. And the pay was a percentage of your total car rental bill, was what it was.
Wow.
So she did that and ended up talking to somebody who also tried to reach them in Halifax and could not reach them. And so she connected with the big boss, who came on. They eventually, and he was not able to connect up with them. Then they were very embarrassed about all of this and said, okay, we'll refund the charge that we were going to charge you for talking to us. Anyway, she took copious notes of the name of where she went, the name of the person she talked to, what that person tried to do. She kept pages of notes from all of this. We get to Halifax, go to the car rental place. One guy behind the counter, who was obviously new, had not been trained, and he says, looks it up and said, oh, you were supposed to pick this up yesterday. I rented your car. Robin digs out her notes and starts saying all of this, and he gets really nervous and says, I've got to go and phone my boss. So he goes into the back office to phone his boss, and he comes back and says, oh, there's a car out there that we're going to give you. We had rented the cheapest car we could find, a really small, cheap car. We ended up with this big Dodge minivan, and which was good because that's what Robin was used to driving, was a big minivan. It had a Quebec license plate on it, and it didn't even have a Hertz sticker on it anywhere. There was no way you could tell that it was a rental car. So we figure somebody, maybe somebody in the organization had to let their car go. So we ended up with this humongous, beautiful car for the same price as we would have. But if Robin hadn't kept all those notes, we would have been without a car.
Yeah, and they would have been, I mean, what was really probably frightening is that she talked to a big boss, and they could not get a hold of the office.
That's
and
right.
They knew that there was going to be hell coming down
Yeah,
the pike.
there was a big problem. Okay.
Yeah.
So when it's really important, take notes and do not be satisfied with talking to a bot. Okay. The next and the last thing I want to tell you is if you're trying to plan something, I hope Alanna is able to hear what we're saying here. It looks like she's had a problem there. If you're planning on trying to organize your lodgings, hotels, and all of that, my friend actually, she went to all these online travel booking companies. She did all the research there and went in and read all of the reviews. She read every review for every place that we did. And then instead of booking through those booking agencies, she went to the company's, the motel or the hotel's own website and booked there. And we were able to stay in hotels and motels down there for $100 a night because of the research that she was able to do, and every place we stayed was spotlessly clean, fabulous service. A lot of them even serve breakfast, and even though there's COVID, where they would normally bring breakfast or have a buffet or whatever, they would deliver a bagged breakfast to your room. It was done extreme. I mean, we did not have one place that wasn't out of this world. So if you're trying to book, don't do it through the booking agencies. Go in there to read the reviews, then go find the company's own website and book that way. Because quite often they're willing to negotiate price as well. So we had, everywhere we went, we had a room with 2 queen-size beds and breakfast. And they were all spotlessly clean, and sometimes they were not right downtown. Sometimes they were kind of out a bit. One place in Antigonish, for example, it was outside, and I realized when looking around that it was basically a trucker's stop, because the parking lot was full, and there were 2 or 3 really big rigs parked in there. The room was fabulous, and so was the service. So don't think you have to stay at the top, the high-end stuff. If you read your reviews, you can do well. So it was a reasonable trip for both of us, because it cost each of us about $50 a night. So okay. What else? I think that's the end of my my what did I learn? It's the other thing I wanted to say was, everywhere we were traveling, I mean, you hear all the time in Canada that Maritimers are really friendly and helpful and blah blah blah. And I mean, it was proven many times. A number of times when we were looking for something, somebody would stop and say, "Can I help you? Are you looking for something?" And they would give us instructions. And in one case, we were on a ferry going from Nova Scotia to PEI, and this was all during COVID, as you might know. We were on this ferry, and rather than being inside, they had picnic tables out on the deck on the ferry. So we had to leave our car, get out of the car, but we were at a picnic table outside. So we've got maps out because I want a lobster feed. And we're going to PEI, where when I was young, the church basements all over the island used to run lobster suppers. So we're on using our cell phones and a map. We've got a paper map out in front of us, and we're trying to figure out where are we going to go have a lobster feed. And Robin found something, and this lady was walking by and on the ferry, and she said, can I help you? You've got a map out. Are you looking for something? And so I explained to her, and we said, well, we found this thing online. And she said, oh, you found the very best. Yeah, make sure that you make a reservation. Get on and make a reservation immediately. You got the very best. So we did that, and we found it, and it was the very best. And I have pictures of me showing Robin how to open a lobster. So, but we were in Halifax and looking for a specific restaurant, and we were walking along a waterfront and so forth. And we stopped and asked a couple of guys that were doing some work outside of somewhere, and somebody else was walking by, heard us ask. And she came back and said, I heard you saying you're looking for this. Go down there and turn left and do this. I mean, we found that everywhere we went. So that was really really neat to find. And the other thing that we discovered was, the last thing I want to say, dealing with governments is a pain in the neck. Because we were visiting 3 different provinces, right? Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick on the East Coast. We discovered online that in order to be able to enter during this COVID time, you had to make an application to enter the province. And you made an application that filled in where you were going to stay and the dates that you planned on being there. And then you had to provide proof that you'd been vaccinated. So we did that with Nova Scotia and PEI. We got to New Brunswick, and when I went to the New Brunswick site, it said applications not necessary. Well, then they turned around and changed their mind in the middle of our trip, and there we were trying to fill in forms from our cell phones to gain access to New Brunswick. Robin got an acknowledgement and saying, fine, no problem. We both tried to send those applications about 4 times. I never did get an acknowledgement or whatever. However, not once did anybody ask us for that proof.
I was going to say, no one asked.
However, in the restaurants, we did have to show proof of vaccination plus an ID, a picture ID card. In all of the restaurants, we had to do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, that's happening all over Canada now.
That's here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
You have to give your phone number too for contact tracing.
Yeah.
If they told the restaurants they had to start asking for that, we would probably have riots.
Well,
I'm serious. I mean, there's people that, the airline industry is going nuts because all these people that refuse to wear masks and are getting violent because they don't want to wear masks.
Yeah. The same thing.
I mean, it's one thing if you don't want to wear a mask, don't fly.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Don't fly.
But
You don't have a right. Flying is a privilege, not a right.
yeah.
You don't have a right to fly.
But here
No.
you can't go in a restaurant, you can't go in a pub, you can't do anything. And there is Fred sharing his vaccinated thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, here we're gonna open up on the 22nd. So I don't know what the mask situation is gonna be, but we're opening on the 22nd. And I think that's gonna be amazing. I can't wait.
See, this is what I've got.
yeah.
Okay.
And I carry it in
I
my
have what
wallet.
Fred has. I have a QR
Yeah.
code.
Yeah, I do
We don't.
too.
We don't
Yeah.
get that here.
You don't get a QR code?
No, we don't get a
But
QR
David,
code.
what you could do with that piece of paper you've got is take a picture and have it on your phone.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's people that, I mean, I should do that because it's getting destroyed in my
That's right.
wallet because it's not the right size card. They don't make a card that goes into the wallet so that you can put it in this handy
Right.
dandy, place here. They make
Yeah.
it so that it sticks out of your wallet
Yeah.
just a little bit, and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and
So
they fill out 2 boxes and 2 things on the whole thing, so they could have made it a hell of a lot smaller.
yeah. Now the other thing I could share with you is I've had 4 COVID tests. I had one before I left. I was not going to travel without a COVID test because there was somebody tested positive at the care center. So I had one before I left. Then when we pulled into Nova Scotia, when we were leaving the airport, there was a big table there, and they were handing out personal testing kits. So we each got one of those. I didn't use mine at the time because it was only 2 days after I had the first test, but I kept it. And then when we were taking the ferry over to PEI, just as we were driving off the ferry, we drove through a sort of a tent kind of arrangement, and we had another test. And that one was really well organized. What they said was, if you test positive, you will hear from us within 2 hours. If you do not hear from us in 2 hours, know that you are negative. So we had that. And then when we got to New Brunswick, nobody tested anything. And so while we were in New Brunswick, we used the tests that we picked up in Nova Scotia. So I had that test. And then while we were in Nova Scotia, I got a phone call from Island Health that said, it's been decided that people that are working at care centers need 3 tests. So I had another test the day I returned here. So I've had 4 tests.
And of course, the ones that you did over there in the East Coast didn't work for the West Coast, right?
Well, it's the organization that manages the care center, Island Health. Yeah. They have control, and if I wanted to go back to work, I would have to do the tests that they arranged. Right. I wasn't upset about that at all. It seemed to make sense to me to have a test. Now I'm back here now. It made sense to have another test here. So of course,
how bad
it
did
came
you
back
get
negative.
Yeah. How bad did it get in the facility with the one COVID?
That person, there were 2 people who actually tested positive. It looked like neither one of them, because they were both had both vaccines. They had been vaccinated, so it looked like they didn't really have a lot of symptoms, but
Right.
they tested positive, so they had to shut the place down. So.
Yep.
So anyway, So what time is it? I probably went way over.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I'm
did,
gonna need to get.
and
I'm gonna need to get
I'm
going
sorry.
Yeah, I've got to go too.
Yeah.
too.
So I learned a lot.
Yes, you did.
But I love the fact that I now know how to do a whole lot more things on my phone than I ever knew how to do before. So Alanna, leave that laptop home.
Leave the laptop home. Yes, fingers crossed I can do that. Yeah. Okay, I gotta go, but I enjoyed
right.
hearing about your trip, and I look forward to chatting with you next week.
Yes, and
Talk to you guys later.
okay. Well, I'm just going to close this
Bye,
off,
Alanna.
and I don't know, Fred, if there's a short last word. I don't know if you can do it, but it looks like you're freezing.
Oh, I can try if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can try. We can hear you.
I think there's a lot of messages here. The one thing is multitasking was interesting, and how you plan your day. There's enormous amounts saying you've got to spend time to think because you cannot multitask. I mean, there's books all about it, atomic ideas, all sorts of great books, and this business of spending 25-minute Pomodoro technique and then 5-minute break. That, let's say you got a task that's going to take 4 hours. You don't spend all 4 hours. You break it up into 4 or 6 or 8 different breaks.
Okay.
Do 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break, then another 25 minutes, even though it's the same task, but you just can concentrate on one task and make that the important thing. It'll be amazing how much difference it makes to you. And then the practice. I think there's nothing, I could go on, but I won't. I just got to say, that's it. You just got to keep doing it and get better as you do it. And I enormous amount of stories I could share, but we don't have time.
Right.
So those are the things. So there's a lot of good things. The listening is important as well. Listen to other, and people are important in your life. Doesn't matter what. That's what you say. You can't find the people, and you can't do it all yourself. You need wingmen.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, and not only video, but wingmen for anything you're doing. Cannot do it yourself.
Right.
Okay, that's my summary.
Well, thank you so much. And so I will end this by saying it's important to do what you love with passion. And to admit to you, I have no idea what next week will be because I'm just back. If anybody can stay on and help me determine some ideas, for those of you who have to leave, if you can think of anything that has come up that we need to talk about, please let me know so that I can plan the next month. Okay, having said that, I will hit the outro now.